It's 2 a.m. You wake up and the room is completely black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And for just a second, before your brain catches up, something ancient fires inside you. A pulse of something that isn't quite fear, but isn't quite not fear either. You lie there, perfectly still waiting, listening. You know the room is safe. You've slept in it 1,000 times. And yet something in you refuses to fully relax until your eyes adjust and the shapes come back. You're not afraid of the dark. You're afraid of what used to be in it. For 300,000 years, the dark wasn't an inconvenience. It was the most dangerous time of day, and the creatures waiting in it were real. Let's start with what was actually out there. The cave lion was 25% larger than any lion alive today. It hunted at night, in near total darkness, with eyes that could gather 6 times more light than yours. It could see you perfectly, while you were completely blind. The saber-toothed cat ambushed from tall grass and water sources precisely at dusk, the moment your vision failed and theirs didn't. Cave hyenas hunted in coordinated packs of 20 or more. After dark. Specifically because that's when their prey was most vulnerable. Every major predator your ancestors faced had one thing in common. They were most active when the light was gone. For millions of years, darkness and death arrived together. Every single night. Your brain remembers this, not as a memory you can access, but as a wiring so deep it predates language, predates fire, predates everything that makes you recognizably human. Neuroscientists call it an evolutionary threat response. When your visual cortex stops receiving reliable input, when the world goes dark, your amygdala, the region of your brain that processes threat, activates automatically. It doesn't wait for evidence. It assumes danger. This is not irrational. For most of human evolutionary history, assuming danger in the dark was the correct response. The ancestors who relaxed at night were the ones who didn't wake up. The ones who stayed alert, who slept lightly, who woke at every sound. Those were the ones who survived to have children. You are descended from the anxious ones. The ones who trusted the dark are not your ancestors. In 2011, researchers at the University of Toronto published a study on human threat perception in low-light conditions. They found that people consistently overestimate the size of potential threats when light levels drop. A shape that reads as medium-sized in daylight is perceived as significantly larger and more threatening in dim light. Your brain is not malfunctioning. It is applying a system that evolved over millions of years. When you can't see clearly, assume the worst. It's kept your lineage alive through ice ages, predator-filled plains, and 100,000 years of African nights. But the dark did something else to early humans, something that changed the course of our species. It forced us to build fire. The oldest evidence of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, roughly 1 million years ago. Burned bone fragments, ash layers, charred plant material, all inside a cave that became a permanent campsite. And fire didn't just provide warmth. It created something that had never existed before in the history of life on Earth. A circle of safety in the dark. A campfire produces light in a radius of about 30 feet. Inside that circle, predators will not enter. Not because of the heat, because fire means humans, and humans in groups with fire had already proven themselves dangerous. Lions that approached campfires learned not to. The ones that didn't learn didn't survive either. This 30-foot circle of light was the first time in history that humans owned the night. Think about what that meant. Before fire, when the sun set, you climbed a tree or found a rock crevice and you stayed absolutely still until morning. You were prey, hiding. After fire, you sat in the open. You talked. You ate. You told stories. You took back half the day the darkness had stolen from you. And around those fires, something else happened. Anthropologist Polly Wisner spent years recording nighttime conversations among the Juhwanzi people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living in a way that resembles pre-agricultural human life. During the day, conversations were practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ready? Who isn't pulling their weight? But at night, around the fire, 81% of conversations shifted to stories. Myths about the origins of the world. Tales of ancestors who did impossible things. Moral lessons disguised as adventure. The campfire circle, carved out of the dark by fire, is where human culture was born. The dark forced us to innovate, and innovation became our greatest weapon. But here's what most people don't know about the fear of darkness. It isn't universal. It's learned in a very specific way during a very specific window of human development. Studies on children show that fear of the dark is almost non-existent before age 2. It peaks between ages 3 and 8 and then gradually decreases into adulthood for most people. But here's what's interesting. The fear doesn't emerge spontaneously. It emerges at the exact developmental window when children begin to understand that predators exist. When they begin to process stories about danger, about things that hunt, about threats that are real. The fear of the dark isn't hardwired at birth. It's triggered by the moment a developing human brain begins to understand what the dark once contained. You weren't born afraid of darkness. You were born with the capacity for that fear, waiting to be activated by the right information. In cultures with no electric lighting, where genuine darkness is a nightly reality, the fear response is different. Not absent, but managed, integrated. The Hadza people of Tanzania, hunter-gatherers who sleep without walls or artificial light, don't describe the night as terrifying. They describe it as requiring attention, a constant, quiet awareness that something might be moving in the dark. Not panic, calibration. That distinction matters. What we call fear of the dark in the modern world is actually an ancient threat detection system running in an environment it wasn't designed for. A bedroom with no predators, no genuine risk, no reason for the amygdala to fire. But it fires anyway, because your brain cannot fully distinguish between a dark bedroom and a dark savanna. The hardware is the same, only the context has changed. There's one more layer to this that almost nobody talks about. The dark doesn't just trigger fear. It changes how we think. When visual input is reduced, your brain compensates by amplifying other inputs. Sounds become louder. Patterns feel more significant. The creak of a house settling becomes something that needs to be identified. The silence between sounds feels loaded. Researchers have found that people in darkness score higher on measures of creative thinking, pattern recognition, and what psychologists call threat sensitivity, the ability to detect subtle signals that something might be wrong. Your ancestors needed this at night. They needed their pattern recognition running at full capacity when they couldn't see. The brain that could hear a twig snap and immediately model where the sound came from and what made it was the brain that survived. So when you lie awake at 2 a.m. and your mind races and every sound feels significant and you can't quite shut off that quiet vigilance, even though you know you're safe, you're not broken. You're running the exact software that kept your ancestors alive through a million years of genuine darkness. The cave lion is gone. The saber-tooth is gone. The hyena packs that hunted your great-great-grandparents 10,000 generations back are gone. But the dark is still there. And somewhere inside you, something ancient is still listening. And that's the part that should make you stop and think. Every generation of humans that came before you faced something that no longer exists. Predators that have been extinct for 10,000 years. Darkness that was genuinely, lethally dangerous. A world where the correct response to nightfall was fear, vigilance, and the instinct to stay absolutely still. We eliminated those predators. We lit up the night with electricity. We built walls and locks and systems that make the darkness safe in a way your ancestors could never have imagined. And yet the system they built inside us, over millions of years of genuine threat, that system didn't get the update. Your brain still runs the old software. The one that says darkness equals danger. The one that keeps a portion of your consciousness scanning for threats even when your conscious mind knows there are none. The one that wakes you at 2 a.m. for no reason except that 2 a.m. was historically the most dangerous hour, the heart of the predator's window, the time when the fire burned lowest and the dark pressed closest. You have inherited a nervous system built for a world that no longer exists, and most of the time, you manage it. You turn on a lamp, you check your phone, you convince yourself with light that there is nothing there. But some nights, the old signal is stronger than the logic. Some nights, you lie in the dark, and something in you, something older than memory, refuses to fully believe that the shapes in the corner are just furniture. That's not a malfunction. That's a million years of survival compressed into a single moment. You are the result of every ancestor who was afraid enough to stay alive.